Welcome to my workshop. Given a bunch of boxes of drawn comb. So there's 5 there. There's another 2 or 3 inside stacked. My project has been taking all the drawn comb out of all these frames. So that's all the ones that are done. And that's what I got left to do. I pull all the wires out, get all the comb, fill a cooler. Alright, so we're taking all the drawn comb out of the frame, putting it into the cooler. So a lot of these frames, they either have wires tied off on the ends or they have staples holding the wires, so we gotta break those. Take my screwdriver. I'm just ripping out all these wires. Some beekeepers use these wires to stabilize their frames so a little bit stronger so when you look at them they're not falling out. Be a little Ukrainian with it, show it who's the boss. You get ones where they got foundation in them. asking why I'm getting rid of these frames. Well, another beekeeper gave them to me in the intentions of just melting them in for wax. And I mean, I could use these with my beehives, but then I'd be chancing the risk of disease and other things. This darker foundation is just old brood comb. Smells a little bit like fermenting honey, just because it's been sitting for so long. And all these other yellow golden spots are all pollen that the bees have brought in. We're in my kitchen, and if you couldn't guess, we're gonna melt some beeswax today. I got a bunch of beeswax that was given to me from a guy near Didsbury, Alberta. He's retiring from beekeeping and no longer needed the comb or the frames, so he donated it to me along with some hive boxes and stuff like that. So all the comb that we're gonna melt down, it's all old comb, and the wax moths have pretty well taken hold of everything in there. I've already gone through a couple coolers of combed wax. I've filled up about 6 or 8 coolers, camping coolers. I've melted down a lot of comb already, and out of all that comb I've done already, I've got a nice solid chunk of beeswax. So this wax here has been over a course of 4 different melts that I've done. This is actually a second filter that I've done. The first filter is usually quite a bit darker and has a lot of honey and stuff on the bottom that I've had to scrape off. So as I said, this is a second filter. For the first filter that I do, I just use a mesh strainer. It's pretty coarse. This basically just catches all the dead bees and wax moth and stuff like that. So once I got all the other large particles out of the beeswax, then I strain it again the second time. The second time I'm just refining it even more, trying to get some of that honey and grains and stuff like that are in there. And usually has a big cake of honey on the bottom that separates out as it cools, as the wax cools. And so we're gonna start melting some wax and add to the block. This is my setup that I got. So I got 2 full coolers, camping coolers full of comb that I scraped off the frames. And another 5-gallon pail full. So what I do is I just add up add a couple inches of water to the bottom of this stock pot. So get some water in there and then I'll start adding comb in there. This is the water in the stock pot here now. Like I said, it's only like an inch or 2 from the bottom, not a whole lot. So once we get that full of comb, we're going to be dumping it into here and straining. We're dumping all the hot wax into the strainer, and it'll be straining off all the beeswax and honey into the 5-gallon pail. And then any slum that remains in the strainer, we dumped into the pail. So the water here is nicely heated, just come to a boil. We're going to start adding some comb to it now.
Well, in the merry month of May, now from me home I started, left the girls in two and nearly broken hearted, saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, drank a pint of beer, me grief and tears to smothered enough to reap the corn and leaf, for I was born, got a stout black sword, a Bunnish coast and goblets of brand new.
So one thing I'd like to mention is I do keep my heat on high. As soon as it starts boiling, then of course I turn it down, but just to keep the wax melting at a steady pace. And as this sinks down and melts, I just keep adding more until the wax is just below the bottom rivets on the pot. One thing I do want to mention is if you're going to be melting wax in your kitchen or your wife's kitchen, make sure you got newspaper down to cover all the surfaces. Got the newspaper here too. And you also, if you're going to be melting wax in the kitchen on the stovetop, keep an eye on it. I have had the instance where I overheated the pot and the wax overflowed and it covered the entire kitchen floor, and I didn't have newspaper or anything, and it was a mess. So don't do that. You're seeing in the pot here now on the top, this is all slum. This is cocoons, bees, all kinds of trash that you want to strain out of the beeswax. It takes anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes for me to melt a stock pot full of comb. Once the pot starts bubbling, then that's my cue to start straining it into the pails. Alright, so you can see now that the pot is boiling. Before it was just kind of a solid crust of slum on the top. This is about the point now that you give it a couple more minutes here, and then we'll pour it in the strainer. This is basically how I judge when the wax is ready to pour. Start bubbling it like that.
Where a brokes to rattle over the bogs and frighten all the dogs on the rocky road. It's a double of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hunt to Harrington and down the rocky road, and all the ways to double and make for Aldida. In Mullingar that night I rested him so weary, started by daylight next morning light, and there he took a drop of the pure to keep me heart and drink, and that's the paddy's cure. When there he's on for drinking, they hear the lassie smile, laughing all the while at me curious style to touch a heart. A bubble, and he asked me was I hired and wages I required.
The wax is sat overnight and cooled, so we're going to take a look and see what exactly is what we got for wax. So we've melted the wax, filtered it once, and now we're going to do a second time. So this is just wax that didn't form into a nice solid block.